everything is live. Justin, tell me one thing you know from the book of Matthew. Just anything that you know from the book of Matthew. What first pops in your head?
Written to the Jewish people.
Written to the Jewish people.
Primarily Jewish.
Okay. Donnie, tell me the first thing that pops in your head when you think about the book of Acts. What's in the book of Acts? Just anything.
Book of Acts, Peter's sermon.
Peter's sermon, there, Acts chapter 2.
Start of the church.
That's the first thing that comes to a lot of folks' minds, especially the people that we know. Edgar, what you know about the book of Romans? First thing that pops in your mind, the book of Romans. Not much, okay. So we've understood it on that. What about, who can tell me the first thing that pops into your mind when you think of the book of 1 Corinthians?
Chapter 13, the love chapter.
Love chapter, chapter 13. Chapter 15, the resurrection chapter. We talk about withdrawal of fellowship in chapter 5. All kinds of interesting things from 1 Corinthians. Galatians, first thing that comes to your mind in the book of Galatians. Justin, I've got you on here twice now. I don't know what's going on there, but just letting you know.
Once.
But the book of Galatians, what pops up? What pops up in your mind? Justin, you got some kind of trouble going on there. I don't know what it
is. Yeah, I was shocked, and so I was actually online on my phone. I got my issue resolved.
All right. So the book of Galatians, we think of the fruit of the Spirit. We think of the works of the flesh. We think about Peter getting rebuked by Paul, something that doesn't happen very often. You go to the book of Ephesians, one of the first things that pops to our mind is what? The spiritual armor of Ephesians chapter 5, the wonderful teaching that Paul has in the first part of the book about being saved by grace. Philippians. What's the word or thought or picture that comes to your mind with the book of Philippians? What about
all things through him who gives me strength?
That's right. One of the first thoughts that folks have is joy. It's the letter or epistle of joy. We find also there in the Philippians chapter 2 the wonderful passage about Jesus being the servant, how Jesus humbled himself, became servant even unto death. What about Colossians? What do you know about Colossians? Some of these we have to think about, but once we, and I'm giving you a pop quiz, I suppose, so I'm putting you on the spot, but if we were to think about Colossians, we'd think about if you are raised with Christ, then do what? That passage in chapter 3, put on these things, put off these things. What about 1 Timothy? Know anything about 1 Timothy? That's the preacher's book, isn't it? One written to preachers, the epistle written to Timothy, the young preacher, but it has more to talk about elders than does preachers in the book. But we get the elders qualifications there. We have Timothy given the charge of preaching the truth. Titus, another preacher book. Philemon, what comes to your mind when you think of Philemon? Little short book, one chapter book. Mercy, good thought to come from Philemon. I call it the slave book, and we won't go into why we do that, but because I won't have time for that. Hebrews, first thing comes to your mind. Hebrews.
Heroes of faith.
Heroes of faith. That's right. Go to chapter 11. There's a lot between there, but that's the first thing that comes to our mind. And I call James the faith book, just like I call Philemon the slave book. Peter, First Peter, false teachers there in 1 Peter. Yeah, especially Second Peter deals with false prophets. Peter says, one of my favorite quotes there in Peter is, "Be holy, for I am holy. You are a chosen generation. You are a royal priesthood. You are a holy nation, a special people." Great book, First Peter. Revelation, the end. Good point, Edgar. The end, and it's the end in more ways than one. We win. Uh, a lot of these books of the New Testament we're familiar with. We have some idea, some concepts of what they're about, but there are some books that we just, if I were to ask you to tell me what's in First Thessalonians, most of you couldn't tell me. And it's no discredit to you individually, but we as a church, we as students of the Bible, we don't know anything about Thessalonians, first or second. A lot of times we don't know anything about Second Peter. A lot of times we don't know anything about Second John or Third John. We know what First John says, and we know what Matthew says. When we get a little weaker and weaker with Mark, Luke, and John, we got Matthew down because it's the first one that comes up. We read it, and Acts we get it. Romans we read past the first 3 chapters and then we're done. We don't get much past that. And First Corinthians, we like that one, but most preachers, when they get into First Corinthians and start teaching it, studying it, by the time they get to the end of the book, they're ready to move on to something else, and Second Corinthians just gets left out. And that's where we are tonight, Second Corinthians. We're going to spend the next several weeks in First Corinthians, and brethren, we need to know this book, Second Corinthians. We need to know this book. It's an inspired book of God. It's given to us for a reason. God wants us to know this message. There's something for our salvation here in this book. We're not going to study it just so that we can get a bunch of biblical facts. We're going to study this to see what message the Holy Spirit is trying to teach us, what He wants us to know from this great and oftentimes neglected epistle. I think it's inexcusable what teachers and preachers have done with Second Corinthians in the sense that they have ignored it. It's not the same kind of book as First Corinthians. It's not the same kind of book as Romans. It's not the same kind of book as some of the other books. It's a different kind of book, and we're going to be looking at that as we continue our study together. As I was talking to Donnie a few minutes ago, I'm a preacher by trade. That's what I do. I'm usually standing and speaking, and we'll do some of that in the class, but I also want it to be an interactive class. I'm accustomed to preaching, not teaching, and Brother Tidwell, the director of the school here, asked me last quarter if I'd teach. I did. He asked me back this quarter, so I guess I did all right, but I'm still accustomed, first of all, to preach, so you'll have to I'll ask you to excuse my inexperience in teaching in this format. I'll do the best I can. Did you get a copy of the syllabus that I sent you? I know, Edgar, you have not got a copy. I don't have a hard copy, so I'll have to get you that. I didn't expect you in class tonight, but Donnie, did you get a copy of the syllabus?
Yes, sir.
Justin, did you get one?
Yes, sir.
Okay, let's take a look at that real quick. I'll pull that up. I think I'll pull that up. Yeah, now, Donnie, you're auditing the class, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so the extra work won't be required of you. Justin, are you auditing the class, or are you taking this for credit?
Credit, sir.
Credit. So this applies mostly to you. Edgar, are you auditing or taking for credit? Credit. So this will apply to you. I'll read through this, especially for Edgar's benefit, since I don't have a hard copy for him tonight, and I will get that to him. Do you have an email address that I could use? So write that down for me, and I'll get that later. I'll just get it later from you. I want you to read the book of Corinthians, 2 Corinthians, at least 2 times. I know you're familiar with some of the verses in it. I know preachers have preached some of the verses in it. Some of you are older than some of the others, and I know you've heard passages from it, but I want you to read the book twice. I'd like for you to read it. We got 15 weeks. I'd like for you to read it 15 times. It doesn't take long to read the book. Familiarize yourself with the words is my main idea here. As far as a text to read for the class, I'm suggesting that you read Paul Butler's commentary on 2 Corinthians. I have sent you a link to that. It's free online. If you are not able to bring that up, let me know, and I will try to make sure that you can find another source for that. But that'll be the text from which we will be studying, or at least I'll have you reading as far as a commentary in the class. It's probably not the best commentary, but it is a good commentary, and it's free. And that's the main thing. I know a lot of students, when I was in school, the books were too expensive, and so I'm trying to make that easier. I'm trying to get you the best quality commentary I can get for you that doesn't cost you a lot of money, and I think this one on 2 Corinthians by Butler is good. Be prepared for a weekly quiz. I'll send it to you an email after the class, and those of you who are taking the class for credits, you'll have to turn that in to me by the following Thursday. We meet each Thursday, so before next Thursday, actually not this next Thursday because we're not going to have class this next Thursday. I'll tell you about that later. But before the next class, please turn that test back in. It will cover the material covered in the class that we're having today. Midterm exam, expect that. I don't know what date that'll be yet. I didn't put that on the syllabus here because I didn't think about it mainly, but I just have to look where the midterm week is, and then that's when it'll be. The final exam will be our final class, and you can expect that questions will come both from the Butler text as well as your notes off of the weekly videos. I thought there would be some ladies in our class. Apparently there's not, at least not yet. Gentlemen, I'd like for you, if you're taking the class for credit, to give me 2 sermons from the book of 2 Corinthians. I'm not looking for a verse from 2 Corinthians that takes me all over the rest of the world in the Bible. I want it to be from 2 Corinthians. If you have supporting text from other places, that's fine, but I want this lesson to be from a text in 2 Corinthians. And I have given you a couple of 2 or 3 suggestions down there at the bottom. Those were mainly for our lady students if we had them, but it's also would be good lessons to work on as far as your lessons are concerned. But I want it to be from the book of 2 Corinthians. Teach me a lesson. Give me a sermon from 2 Corinthians. I'd like for it to be thorough enough as far as your typing it out. If you want to do it in outline format, your business. But I want it to be have enough meat on that outline that I can know what you're saying. I can't get much from a 2-word sentence on an outline. So make it where I can understand it. Make it where, as I tell most folks, make it where a teenager can understand it and anybody else can get it. I got 2 or 3 suggestions down there for you at the bottom of the syllabus, and I'll get you a copy of that, Edgar. Main thing I want as far as footnoting, if you take something from a source, I don't care how much you take from a source, and we don't want to copy somebody else's material, but if you take something from a source, give credit for it. Somebody put some work into it. Give credit for your sources, and you don't have to do it in any particular college format. I know there are certain people who require this format, that format. I just want you to note in there somehow, some way that I borrowed this from, I got this from whoever, and make sure that they get credit for that. Any questions on the syllabus? Justin, that's mainly to you and to Edgar. And Edgar, you're at a disadvantage right now because you can't see it. Any questions on the syllabus?
No.
All right. Next week, there's I don't know if you're familiar with it, but a seminar called, I don't know what else to call it, but Polishing the Pulpit. And Brother Tidwell and I will be going to that, so we will not have class next week. I think that's actually figured into the scheduling of that the school gives out. But anyway, there will not be a class next week. So our next class will be, I have to look at my calendar. Next week is the 25th. So the next class will be on the 1st of September. And currently we are using Google Hangouts as a means of communicating with you. This video is being done through Google Hangouts, which ends up being a YouTube thing. but somehow, some reason, we don't know why, Google Hangouts is going away. And it will go away, I think, on September the 17th. So maybe we'll have one more class via this means, and hopefully by the 1st of September, when this class is resumes, we will then know what we're going to do. Right now, we don't know what we're going to do. So we're asking that you'll have patience with us until we figure out. This is not something that we did. It's something that when we started the quarter, we saw on there that Google Hangouts is going away, and it's pushing us towards something called YouTube Live, and it may be that's what we're going to use. We just don't know. We don't know how it works or what complications that's going to throw into the works here. So as far as I know, the next class, September 1, will be on Google Hangouts, and you'll get the invitation just like you did today. Hopefully it'll be only one invitation instead of 2 or 3 like I sent you. Sorry about that. But at any rate, that's what we're going to do. That's what's happening in the future. We don't know exactly what's going to happen there because well, we just don't know. So syllabus took care of that. Next week took care of that. Posting the pulpit took care of that. I'm going to, as soon as this class is over, I'm going to send you a link to a video that I recorded day before yesterday. It'll be our class for this week. It won't always work out like that, but I wanted to spend some time just talking with you today, not necessarily having a class. But I'm going to send you a link to a video on 2 Corinthians that I recorded 2 days ago, and that will be the class for this week. Are there any questions as far as anything that has to do with the class? Not necessarily 2 Corinthians, but the class that you've in the scheduling of it. Any questions? Or that we're getting across to you as far as email and all of that stuff?
No, sir.
All right. So what I'm going to do is close out, and here in just a second, I will send you that email for the link to the class. I'm going to stay on for a minute or two. Let me see if I can pull that up and make sure you get that video or that link. Go ahead and send it now. That way I will take that off my plate. I have sent, I believe, you an email. You should get a link to a YouTube video. If you would try to open that up, or at least see that you can open it up, you have 2 weeks to watch that video. That's going to be our first class. Again, I apologize, Edgar. I didn't expect you tonight. And when I close out with these guys, I'll talk to you and see what we're going to do.
Yeah, I got it.
I've got the video.
All right, great. Glad to hear it. That'll be the class for this week. I will also, Donnie, I'm going to be sending you emails that may not be applicable, the tests and the so forth. I'll be sending those to you. You don't have to respond to them, but I've got you all in a group, and so you'll receive everything that everybody else gets. So I will send you a test on that video probably tonight as well, so that you can, and it's not a test, it's more of a quiz. The test will come, but these are just quizzes to let you know what I'm looking for as far as what we're trying to teach. Any questions?
No, sir.
Justin, you pretty clear?
Yes, sir.
All right. I apologize for the way it turned out tonight, but we're going to go ahead and close out this video. You'll have the hour. It's about I think it's an hour and 7 minutes long on the video that I sent you. If you have trouble with it, I think you have my email. Please feel free to contact me anytime. God bless, and I will see you in 2 weeks.
Thank you, sir.
All righty. Good night.